Hello, I'm Edward Parsons, and for my capstone project, I decided to test the old media myth that video games are no good, and the only things they do is raise your blood pressure and create mindless aggression. During the course of my project, I tested 3 popular genres of video games, and played them for varying increments of times, increasing by 2 hours each round. The games I used were the first-person shooter Halo, the fantasy RPG Runescape, and the strategy game Total War Warhammer.
So, I am France, they will obey.
Surely an agreement will be reached, for are we not all sons?
First off, with the physical effects of video gaming for increments of 1 hour, 3 hour, and 5 hour, I found that it was only in the later of them 5 hours did I really suffer any negative physical reaction, such as cramping in my fingers or any type of back pain. But these generally went away within half an hour of me playing the video game. And in the case of the fingers, all it took me was snapping them a few times, and they were good as new. When it comes to my eyes, the blurriness would usually go away very rapidly. It would linger for about half an hour, but by the 10-minute mark, it was only slightly blurry, like you just looked into a light for a few seconds. In terms of my back, once I got up and cracked it once, it pretty much recovered, and didn't have any problems with it for the rest of the day, and that's pretty much it. In terms of the physical effects of video gaming for so long, I mean, every symptom I had went away within half an hour, and were only noticeable for first 5 or 6 minutes. In terms of my blood pressure, the only game of the 3 that was able to raise my blood pressure to a significantly higher state and even close to dangerous was the first-person shooter Halo, which raised it into the very high territory that, if it maintained that for a few hours, could be considered very adverse to your health. RuneScape and Warhammer, on the other hand, only raised my blood pressure slightly, and after the 5-hour testing, only raised it to the higher end of slightly above normal. Nothing that would be bad by health standards. I mean, a doctor would not pull you aside and tell you you're in danger at this point. And they definitely started to lower an hour after. I mean, half of them were well on their way to going back to normal. And that's it. When it comes to my blood pressure, these games certainly did raise them, but by no means did they put them into a dangerous level that maintained itself. They always immediately started going down after I was done with the tests. In terms of my behavior after playing these games, the only game that ever caused me any type of frustration or caused me to be in a sour mood after playing was the first-person shooter Halo, after I suffered through several waves of intense enemies that actually forced me to use strategy and really put me on my back foot. The other games, on the other hand, generally left me in a very good mood because I was able to accomplish something relatively easily and obtain very good rewards from dungeons and strategy. My family noted that after all these games, I genuinely maintained in a good mood for a long time, and when I was in a bad one, it generally went away after I got moving and took my mind off of it. I do believe that if I did have more negative experiences during the gameplay of these games, I do believe that would have shown itself in me having a negative attitude, and I do believe that it is the experience itself that determines your behavior after a game, but in none of them did I find myself overly aggressive afterwards. I mainly either felt extremely happy or mildly irritated. I never felt anything such as aggression or rage afterwards. I generally either felt happy or eh. In conclusion, I do believe there is some viability to the myth that video games can raise blood pressure, but in regards to everything else, like hyperaggression or, turning people into mindless, aggressive beasts, I simply don't see it. While there are, documentations in the media of people playing video games and going crazy, I genuinely believe that to be the exception rather than the rule. And from my testings, I just found that even the most violent of video games that put you under a lot of combat pressure, they just don't seem to create any aggression. I do believe that video games can definitely raise blood pressure, can definitely cause adverse health effects, but only when played in excess of 5 hours and more. I mean, for your average gamer who's only playing maybe 3-4 hours a day, I don't see that much adverse health effects coming from that. Although I have, in the past, played for periods much greater than that, it generally isn't until the 10th hour and plus that you really see any major negative health effects, and I just feel like the media has overhyped the negative effects of video games simply because it's an easy target. And I do believe most stuff they are saying is nothing more than hype.